Hey boys, I'm your commish, your host, your three-time champ, your two-time in a row champ, Noah Janaskevich, and welcome to the Vito Gate PR. So, you guys are probably wondering, why is this not out before kickoff? And I gotta tell you, I was feeling a little bit lazy Monday. I was a little bit busy Tuesday. I was a little bit busy Wednesday. So I'm recording this at the start of the third quarter where Kansas City is beating Houston right now, and Deshaun Watson's letting me down. We'll see if he can kind of flip that around in the second half here. But let's get on with the PR because that's pretty much why you guys are here. I gotta make sure I switched over to my right monitor here. Here we go. It's the VitoGate PR, week one, new and improved. You want to know why it's new and improved? Josh isn't here. He bailed. He didn't want to do it. Not sure why. I was a very generous host for him, but he decided that he had to go job hunting. Yeah, because as if he's looking for jobs 24/7. Anyway, let's get on with it. If I can actually get this properly. So, there's no pickup of the week because there's barely any pickups. So we're going to do some draft day steals to start off the season. Our first draft day steals were obviously the lotto winners. James and Antoine. Antoine getting the first pick, James getting the second pick, and they were awarded CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the number one rookie running back taken in the draft, and then Mixon, top 15 back or top 15 player, top 10 back probably this year. Um, James kind of goofed it last year, selling him low, but he ended up getting him back. So he was a draft day winner for sure. Oh, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire runs it in for a touchdown. Nice. Okay, let's continue. Just on cue for the lotto winners. All right, so as you guys know, Kendrick drafted for Ramey, and he got a pretty good draft day steal, I believe, with Jarvis Landry. So he went pretty late. I want to say that it was in the, oh boy, in the eighth round, so that would have been the 11th. I don't know. Yeah, either way, actually that was probably later than he went. Either way, very good. He's a perennial Pro Bowler, and he got him super late. Um, I was upset that he got him because I was looking at him, and so I'm pretty sure some other people looking at him too. So that was another draft day steal, I believe. And then I gotta, toot my horn a little. I picked James Robinson with my last pick of the draft in the 17th round. He could be nothing. He could be something, but he almost rushed for 2,000 yards in his senior season, and he's coming to Jacksonville where they cut Leonard Fournette. They didn't want him anymore because they saw James Robinson in camp. Two, Divino Zigbo's on the IR, so he's out for at least 3 weeks. Three, guess who's out is out. Um, Raquel Armstead is on the COVID list, so he's out for at least one more week, if not a few more. So it's going to be James Robinson in the backfield. Who else is going to be competing with him? There's Chris Thompson, sure, he'll get third downs. But, I mean, sure, it's on one of the worst teams in the league, but he's going to have some play. So, I mean, I throw out a flyer and it might work out, it might not. But I think it was a steal to get a starting running back in the last round of the draft. All right, so we got our draft day dumps here. Again, this is what I think. I don't know everything about fantasy. I've just won the past 2 years, so what do I know? Nick's starting running backs. So Nick could not keep a starting running back because one, he traded away one of them right before Leonard Fournette got cut, which was James Conner. Um, Traded him away, and he decided that he couldn't keep Fournette for a third rounder, which probably smart because then he was able to keep Thielen, which I would agree with him would be a better keeper. However, he does not have a stable running back situation. Le'Veon Bell, sure, he's great. We all know him, but he had a very down year last year, and he is splitting time in training camp with Frank Gore. like the 37-year-old Frank Gore, I believe, who just won't go away. I don't think he's that old, but he's old. Like, he shouldn't be splitting time with a guy like Frank Gore if he's the RB1 there. So that's a little bit scary. And then you got Mostert, who is going to be splitting time with Coleman and with Jerick McKinnon. McKinnon, maybe not so much. We still got to see what he's going to do. But Tevin Coleman was starting every game that he was not injured. And then obviously he got injured quite a bit last year, allowed Raheem Mostert to go. So it'll be interesting to see how his running backs fare um, throughout the season. All right, Jaden, why did you not keep Mixon? I know you're a homer for your LA Chargers. I know you're a homer for Keenan Allen and for Austin Eckler, but you could have got Keenan in probably the fifth round, second round in our draft, but fifth round, and you could have still had Mixon. I know you didn't have a second rounder. Take him in the first, whatever. Don't drop a back that's top 10. You're just giving someone at the top of the draft a free pick there. Don't do it. And I got to give it to Kendrick again, except on the bad side here. Devin Singletary in the second round when there is a lot of other good options available. Talks are in camps that he might have been fumbling away his job. Now, I don't necessarily believe that, and this could still work out, but I feel like he was drafted fairly early on when there was a lot of risk with that pick, considering they drafted Zach Moss with better draft capital than they drafted Devin Singletary last year. So it's a wait and see, obviously, but I think that might have been a draft day dump. Sorry. All right, let's move on to the rankings. I'm going to try and run through these pretty quickly because I want to watch Deshaun Watson try and get a touchdown here. So I've got some rankings and I've got each positional ranking. So you'll see QB, RB, receiver, tight end, and the bench. So the RB is your top three RBs on your team, and then your receivers are your top four receivers on your team. So with that in mind, let's go over Jaden's team. So Jaden's team, I mean, he was second last year, so putting him 10th is a little bit disrespectful, some might say. And well, I might agree with you there. But what did he do in a draft that really caught our eye? He kept Travis Kelce. That's why he's got the S at tight end. Okay? Just that's a set it and forget it position for him. He doesn't have to worry about that unless he gets an injury. I gave him C for QBs because he was the last one to take a QB. He took Matt Ryan. So it's just a bottom tier QB. Again, this is just draft day stock. At the end of the year, it could be pretty good. Matt Ryan does have some good upside um, with a lot of passing yards, but he's not a running quarterback, so he won't give you that floor. For his RBs, the only reason he has a low score is because his third running back is Jordan Howard, um, who is the starting running back, but I mean, he got him fairly late, which um, was partially due to his missing draft capital. Um, he didn't have a second rounder, uh, but like he does have Eckler, which is a very good centerpiece to work around. And then he's got Jonathan Taylor for the future. He's probably wanting to keep him for a fourth rounder next year, which I think will be good. But at the start of the season, he's going to start off slow, splitting with Marlon Mack. So we'll have to wait and see. His receiver core, again, he has Keenan Allen, but he doesn't really have like a top echelon guy. Like I know Keenan is very good wide receiver, but for fantasy with Tyrod Taylor, it might be a little tough for him to get into that top 12 to 15 position. And if you don't have a top guy, I can't rate you higher than a C. He's got Devontae Parker, Michael Gallup, and Brandon Cooks as the other three guys. Um, just a lot of like Brandon Cooks is kind of a flyer with the injuries. Gallup, while good, he's still in a trio with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, so it'll be interesting to see if he still gets the targets than he got last year. I think he has a talent to do it, but it's just a crowded area. And Devontae Parker has been injured this offseason. Um, he's a receiver too, so you're really hoping that the breakout last year was real. And your bench. I don't think you have a lot of depth in your bench. You got right goal. I'm starting on the COVID list. Matt Breida, who's actually a pretty good bench guy, but he's pretty much just your handcuff for Howard. And then Justin Jackson, who is might be splitting time with Josh Kelly. I don't know. It depends on who wins it there. And then you got three rookie receivers, which are going to take time to come around. So um, they have upside, obviously, but if you get an injury, it's going to be tough to fill that position in with your bench. Moving on, let's move on to Sterling at number 9. So I hate dogging on teams, but that's the way the PR goes. Sterling, you got a good QB. You got the third QB off the board, and Dak Prescott. I believe he was the third QB off the board. Might have been the fourth, but um, Dak Prescott is gonna feast this year. So I gave you an A because it's kind of the second tier quarterbacks. Um, you got a pretty mediocre running back core. They're very old and they're maybe going to be committee backs. You got Melvin Gordon, who's maybe splitting time with Philip Lindsay. You got Mark Ingram, who's maybe splitting time with J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. Justice Hill might even get in there. They set up for RBBC there, so it'll be interesting to see that. And then Todd Gurley, is his knees good? Is he going to be back to full 100% Todd Gurley? We don't know. That's kind of a wait and see. So for your starting running backs, I had to give you a little bit lower. Your receivers, though, very good top four receivers. You got Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf, and Deebo Samuel. Those guys are going to carry this team if you want a chance at winning or you get into the playoffs. So you're going to have to hope that Amari Cooper still gets his touches. Chris Godwin connects a lot with Tom Brady. Deebo comes back healthy, and DK just continues to get those deep targets down the field. Your tight end got Rob Gronkowski, and yeah, I don't know how comfortable I would be with Gronkowski coming out of retirement. So it'll be interesting. You might have to pick up a secondary guy, which you do with Jonnu. He could be a good fill-in for you, but you'll just have to kind of wait and see on that. And your bench is kind of so-so as well. You only have one backup running back, or two, I guess, if you consider if your running back isn't a flex. But you only got the Chase Edmonds, and then you've got a lot of high upside and then a good save floor with Emmanuel Sanders. So, I mean, you do got some bench, but not as good of a bench as some other players. So I had to put you lower here. Moving on, Nick. Nick is going to hate me for putting him 8, but this is the next tier up. This is the C tier, I guess. I didn't really put anyone S tier so far early, so technically this is a C tier or B tier if you consider there's no S tier. Either way, Nick is going to hate me for this, but as I said before, don't like his running backs, and that's what's going to dog his team. He's got Lamar Jackson, so obviously that's an S tier quarterback. There's no ifs and or buts about it. Lamar Jackson, he's going to feast this year. He's probably going to do near the same, if not better, than he did last year. Running wise, passing wise, he might go down a little bit just because he threw so many touchdowns for how little he threw. So that'll be interesting to see if he regresses at all. Um, I kind of touched on his running backs, Bell and Mostert. Gibson, however, very high upside guy. They're saying committee, but I think he wins out the committee. We'll have to see and wait on that. Receivers. You've got two solid receivers in Mike Evans and Adam Thielen. And I can't believe I just said Mike Evans was a solid receiver. Yes, he's a solid receiver. I just think he catches the ball and just falls down because he doesn't get a lot of yak after catching that ball. Um, Will Fuller, we'll have to see if he's the one. It'll be interesting to see with Hopkins gone if he can fill in those shoes. And then Marvin Jones is a solid 4. I think he's always undervalued. Um, Kenny Dollard is injured, so he might start out the season as the one. Your tight end situation, you got Noah Fant, and that's it. You're really hoping for that breakout on him. He's kind of lower in the tight end tiers, so I got to give you a C for that. You got a decent bench though. You got some good running backs. You got a lot of handcuffs, and Crowder and Watkins are very solid backup receivers. Watkins obviously going off this game against the Chiefs or against the Texans. So obviously the Lizard King gonna eat week 1. That's what he do. Tyson, number 7. Oh, you have the other S tier quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. So you took him in the 4th. I think that'll work out for you. He's doing pretty good against me right now in our matchup. I'm not very happy about it. Just a kind of solid team. You got pretty good RBs. Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, obviously very good. I almost put you in A tier, but the fact that you have Tariq Cohen as your third running back is kind of scary, considering David Montgomery's already back full practice. Um, It'll be interesting to see if you can somehow get a third running back going with Cohen, Thompson, Latavius Murray, or well, Harris is on the IR, so you don't even have him as an option. Um, Receivers, I also gave you B tier because you got Hopkins, which is great. Marquise Brown, which could be a breakout. Who knows? We got to see kind of what he does when he's got his screw out of his foot, and AJ Green, who's always injured. Um, but when he's not injured, he's great, and I know that because I kept him a few years back, and he did very well for me. Um, who's your fourth receiver? Golden Tate, Alan Lazard, very low down. I don't know about those guys. Uh, Mike Gesicki, Evan Ingram, though that's some solid depth there at tight end. You got a B, and your bench, like I said before, I don't know if I like your bench all that much. It's a lot of kind of hit or miss guys. Why are you taking Donovan Peoples-Jones? I don't even want him in Dynasty with my 29-man roster. So why are you taking him in a standard league? Ugh. James, you can see here another tier up. This is the kind of, I guess this would be the top 2 tier. Um, yeah, great QB, Russell Wilson. We just have to see if they let him cook. If they let him cook, it'll be great. If they don't let him cook, it might just be like every other year where he kind of just like steady but doesn't win you your league. Great running backs. Uh, couldn't give you an S because someone else has an amazing stable of running backs, which we'll get to. But Josh Jacobs, James Conner, and Joe Mixon, you've got 3 bell cows there who are just going to run it for you. Joe Mixon in the 4th was a gift. Our receivers, Tyler Lockett, good receiver. Yes, good stack with Russell Wilson. Courtland Sutton just got an AC joint sprain today. Um, he should be fine. People played through it before, but it's something to monitor. And then Tyler Boyd is a great receiver 3. He'll get lots of catches, lots of receptions, which will help in point 0.5 PPR. But is that enough with Sterling Step as a 4 to put you any higher than a receiver at a C grade? I like a lot of other receiver groups in our league over yours, especially with the Courtland Sutton injury, so I got to lower you down to a C grade there. You do have Mark Andrews at tight end, which is going to help you a lot. He had 41% of the snaps last year, and he put up the numbers he did last year. I think he was tight end 4 or 3, depending on scoring. He's going to be great this year. I'm in Dynasty. I really believe in the guy, and yeah, he's gonna rocket up into like the top tier of tight ends, but he's not quite there yet, so I'm gonna put him down at A for now. Your bench, you got a pretty solid bench. You got some highlights are Zach Moss, Mike Williams when he gets back, a late flyer on Jerick McKinnon, and so yeah, like it's better than some other benches, but it's not nearly as good as a lot of other ones. So gotta give you a B there. Dylan, very solid, no C's on this team. Kind of one of the only ones without C on his team, so he's very solid, but he's not really amazing anywhere. Um, he's got good QB, Josh Allen. Good QB, Josh Allen. He's good for fantasy. He runs the ball, but he's not very accurate. So we'll see if he can take the next step into progression. But we could see Josh Allen not doing very good this year. Um, if he continues on his failing failing to be precise on deep ball targets and accuracy. So we'll see there. So I've got him down at a B tier for that. RBs: Kenyon Drake, Chris Carson, DeAndre Swift. I think Drake is the one in Arizona. Carson is definitely the one in Seattle. And DeAndre Swift could end up being the one in Detroit. So you got a solid group. DeAndre Swift's injured. We got to see what happens with that. So I got to put you a little bit lower on the running backs. Got a great receiving core though. Tyreek Hill, Odell Beckham, AJ Brown, Julian Edelman. You've got the safety with Julian Edelman. Maybe Odell, he gets lots of targets, but you've got Big Boom with Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown. That should really help out, carry your team forward. Darren Waller as the fifth tight end off the board, I believe he was. Very good tight end. I've very much considered drafting him, but I ended up passing on him, which I kind of regret. But that he fell to you. Very solid tight end, kind of in that B tier. He's not like in that top four, so he's a little bit lower. So I got to put him down there. But he could end up being in getting into that second tier with Zach Ertz. He may pass him this year. We'll see. And your bench, you got a great bench because you had so many draft picks. Were able to pick early. You got guys like Christian Kirk, Henry Ruggs, Darius Slayton, Preston Williams, um, an amazing backup crew of receivers. And then you got Philip Lindsay and Kerryon Johnson, two starters last year that are going to be split in time to start the year. We'll see how that works. But Kerryon to back up DeAndre Swift was great. Where's Peterson, though? Come on. I'm just joking. He might just start the season and fade off like when Alvin Kamara stole his job. Antoine. So you might be thinking, what are those orange colors doing this high up in the board? Well, let me introduce you to this guy's number one pick, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who is destroying today in fantasy at the moment. Um, we have to see what he can do other than week one. But it's this offense just gives points to the running back. And since he's got the first round draft capital, they're just going to feed him. So that's, by the way, his third running back on this team. He's also got Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott. So he's got three of the top 7 to 8 running backs in the league, which is just going to propel this team forward, make him do crazy good. He's got Drew Brees. He kind of pushed the QB run, keep on going. He dipped into the third tier of QBs, but um, Drew Brees, when he's on his game, he's A tier. So, I mean, we'll see what happens there. Um, the receiving core is solid with Kenny Galladay, Allen Robinson, T.Y. Hilton. The only reason I gave you A B is because your fourth guy is kind of hit or miss with John Brown, Deshaun Jackson. Jackson's always injured, but he's boom, boom, but he's bust, bust as well. So we'll have to see how that works. Um, and your tight end, got Hayden Hurst. I think is probably one of the lowest tight ends in our league. Starting tight end at least in our league, but we'll have to see. He's going in where Austin Hooper did very well, so he can come in and do the same. But he was outshone by Mike Andrews, so who knows what he can do there. And your bench, don't really like your bench all that much. You got some decent options, but you have no running back depth after your top three. You got Daryl Williams when Clyde goes down, if Clyde goes down, sorry, not when. If. I don't want injuries to happen on because I said something. But yeah, it's just I don't really like your depth, so I put you down for a C. Josh, number three. This is kind of the top tier, the top three teams. Um, you can see he's got a great quarterback with Kyler Murray. Um, some people don't think he's going to make the step. Most people do, though. I see him doing the same um, thing as last year, except he's going to convert on more touchdowns and he's probably going to run the ball a little more because he's going to be more confident in his second year. He's got a great stable of running backs. He's got Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders, J.K. Dobbins. Um, I debated on putting him at B because J.K. Dobbins is going to start off the year doing who knows what, but Dalvin Cook and Miles Sanders are so good, you can't put him that far down in the tier list, so I gave him an A. for sure because JK might run away with it late. Who knows? Um, Plus, he's got Ronald Jones to start out the year when they figure out between him and Fournette what's going to happen. For receivers, Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson. So that's a great stable of receivers. You got um, Jones, obviously, is great. Cooper Kupp fell to you in the fifth, which is a little surprising. I thought he'd go earlier. And then you got Terry in the sixth, which is even better value, I feel. And Deontay fell to you in the ninth, which, I mean, that's really good value. He does have an injured foot, so I'll have to look into that and see what happens with that later. You obviously got George in the first, George Kittle, best tight end in the league. Don't at me. Best tight end in the league, probably second best for fantasy, but best tight end in the league, best non QB in the league at his position. So obviously he's S tier. George Kittle's great. And your bench, you got too many tight ends on your bench, man. Like you got George Kittle. I know you're trying to get trade value in the future, but it leaves you lacking in depth, which is kind of scary when you're trying to go for a title run and you've got a guy with hamstring problems, Miles Sanders. Although you do have a backup in Boston Scott, I'll give you that. It's something to look into. Just saying. I ain't taking your tight ends, that's for sure. With that being said, I come in at number two. Couldn't put myself in number one because I know the haters will come at me saying, "Oh, you're just being biased." But I'm trying not to be biased. I'm trying to look at the team, see which one I like more. Obviously, I like a lot of my players because I drafted them. So obviously I'm going to be slightly biased, but I took Deshaun Watson into the seventh. I think that worked out really well. I started the QB run there, so it gave me a lot of extra value on my next picks. Um, yeah, so he's kind of in that second tier of quarterbacks, so I gave myself an A. Running backs, I gave myself an A as well because Kamara, Chubb, and Akers are not nearly as good as Barkley, Elliott, and Edwards-Helaire. Chubb is looking riskier and riskier by the day for me, just because he is competing with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt just got a 2-year contract. I mean, he's on my team as well, so if it flip-flops, I can roll with it. But it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic between those, and they might just eat into each other and make them not very good for me. Cam Akers is a project. He was a second round pick though, so I mean he's probably going to lead that backfield. And Sean McVay loves his workhorses. I know it was Todd Gurley and Todd Gurley's Todd Gurley, but at the end of the season last year, it was still Todd Gurley when they knew his knees were bad and he was going slow. I believe I have the best receiver core in the league. So I gave myself an S for that. I've got Michael Thomas, DJ Moore, DJ Chark, and Robert Woods. I got Robert Woods, I believe at a value, but I say that every year. But he proves to me right every year. So I believe he's my receiver three over DJ Chark, even though I drafted DJ Chark first, just because I wanted to make sure I got Chark believing I could get Woods later. And that worked out. I had to trade up, however. Um, but I've got such a solid floor with Woods, Moore, and Thomas. And then Chark can be my boom guy if he pays off. I'm mostly looking at Chark with like a Jay Gruden, AJ Green kind of feel back when Jay Gruden was in Cincinnati, where AJ Green went off in his second year. I feel like DJ Chark can do that in his third year under Jay Gruden. My tight ends kind of poor. Tyler Higbee. The fact that he's my third Ram that should be a starter is a little bit questionable, but it was such good value that fell to me. And I got Blake Jarwin as a backup just in case, but definitely low tier on tight end for me because I took so long to draft a tight end, which was the game plan, but again, got to put myself low there. And I got pretty good bench. I got Kareem Hunt, James White as backup running backs. James Robinson, as mentioned before, and Josh Kelly could be something. We got to see. And then for receivers, I got super high upside Jerry Jeudy and Jalen Reagor. Reagor had an injury issue, which he might with his shoulder, but he's now practicing in full. So I believe I got him at a discount in the draft. And Jerry Jeudy with Cortland Sutton maybe out for a little bit can gain some more rapport with Locke and end up being like the 1B to Cortland's 1A. We'll see. They draft him probably to be the 2, but he could end up being the 1 eventually because he was so good in college. And I just throw in Joe Burrow because if he goes off, he goes off. I don't really need him, but gotta go for that rookie fever. Ramey, number 1. This should be somewhat of a shocker to some people. They did not agree with the way Kendrick drafted Ramey's team. I agree with a lot of the picks. Some of them were questionable, like Devin Singletary. But um, he had so much draft capital, and he still drafted the second last quarterback, which, I mean, I usually agree, go quarterback late. But when you have so much draft capital, you got to capitalize on getting better players at better positions because you're still going to have a lot of depth with how much draft capital you have. So that was a little bit of an iffy pick. Carson Wentz should be fine this year, though, but I probably would have drafted higher if I was drafting for Ramey. Running backs, Christian McCaffrey, David Johnson, and Devin Singletary slash David Montgomery. I'd put Montgomery higher personally because he's back from his injury this week, apparently. So, um, Christian McCaffrey is amazing. If his other two weren't as questionable, he'd be an S tier because Christian McCaffrey's so good. David Johnson, he looks fast this year. He actually looks very fast, which will be interesting to see because he does look very good in this Kansas City game. Um, and David Montgomery, that's kind of his backfield, so we'll see what happens there. Receivers, also gave him an S tier because he's got some very good receivers. I don't believe as good as mine, but he's very, very close and can compete with me. Davante Adams is kind of the 2 right behind Michael Thomas. Juju can go off this year with Ben Roethlisberger back. Calvin Ridley, he just catches touchdowns. That's what he does because Julio Jones doesn't. And Stephon Diggs, I mean, I feel like I've been discounting him too much because of Josh Allen, but he can end up being a steal in the 6th round. He's got a great tight end, in Zach Ertz. Just gets lots of targets, and then he's got his late round guy, TJ Hawkinson. We'll see what happens with him. He had the boom week 1. Nothing really after that. And he's got the best bench in the league. He's got CeeDee Lamb, Jarvis Landry, Brandon Ayuk as his backup receivers. And then he's got like Devin Singletary, Leonard Fournette, Malcolm Brown. I mean, okay, Malcolm Brown, whatever, but he could end up he could end up splitting with Cam Akers early, but he's got a very good depth because he had so many picks. So this is Stonk Market. Put everything through here just so you guys can see it all in one go. And if you guys don't agree with me, Fantasy Pros does agree with me. This is the power rankings for Fantasy Pros for the draft score. Um, as you can see, Ramey's at the top. I'm second. Josh third. Antoine fourth. Dylan fifth. James sixth. Tyson seven. Nick eighth. And then tied for ninth slash 10th is Sterling and Jaden. So that's the PR for this week. Bash me in the chat, boys. I want to hear why I was wrong, why the Lizard King isn't going to be a 1 week wonder and fade out again. Just let me know. Either way, I had fun doing this. Now back to the game so I can watch some football. Peace.